All right, let's jump right into today's explainer because we are breaking down a truly fascinating, absolutely terrifying South Asian supernatural survival story. We're looking at a tale often known as the Call of Death. But listen, we aren't just here to tell a ghost story around a campfire. We are going to dissect it. We're going to look at the actual anatomy of a haunting. We'll explore how deeply rooted everyday human struggles like crushing poverty intersect directly with ancient shape-shifting folklore. Get ready because the way this narrative builds its psychological terror is just brilliant. If someone calls from behind, don't look back. This isn't just some spooky suggestion or a casual piece of advice. Out in the dark, isolated forests of village folklore, this is a strict, life-saving law. And as we'll see today, breaking it, well, it has unimaginable consequences.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The burden of poverty. Because to really understand the terrifying decisions our protagonist, a village washerman named Sir, is about to make, we first have to understand his reality.
Just think about this stark contrast we're dealing with here. On one hand, you have Sir's everyday reality. His wife is literally breaking her back washing the village's clothes, yet they get nothing but deep disrespect and extreme poverty in return. But then, out of nowhere, a stranger arrives with an incredible promise. We're talking city-level pay, guaranteed steady work, and a literal ticket out of starvation. It's an offer Sir simply cannot refuse. To put that into perspective, let's look at this number. 2 annas. This is a historic, ridiculously low-value currency. The day before that stranger showed up, Sor had returned a massive, heavy load of laundry to a local client named Mukhtar Sahab, and this meager, honestly insulting amount is all he was given. As Sor tells his wife, 2 annas isn't even enough to buy proper salt for their food. It's wild. This single detail perfectly illustrates the severe economic starvation that's pushing Sor right to the edge. Now, what's really interesting about this new, lucrative job is the catch. Because, of course, there's a hidden cost. Poverty is literally forcing Sar to walk straight into danger. To reach the paying village, he has to cross this ancient, incredibly dense forest known locally as the Corridor of Death. And because of his washing schedule, he's almost always going to be traveling right around sunset. He has to completely ignore the terrifying local rumors of supernatural entities. Desperation makes him brush off these massive, deadly red flags as just mere superstition. Which brings us right to part 2, the ignored warnings. As Sir sets off on his very first journey, he is walking directly into a classic folklore trope. You see, in these stories, the universe always gives you a chance to turn back. Right out of the gate, Sir runs into Ramu, a local who really knows these woods. Ramu is absolutely shocked to see Sir heading out so late, so he gives him these specific rules for survival. And they're pretty clear. Do not travel as the sun sets. If someone calls from behind, do not turn around. And whatever you do, avoid any strange women in the woods. In folklore, rules like these aren't meant to scare you. They exist purely to keep you alive. But Sir, totally blinded by the promise of money, just brushes him off. So Sir actually manages to survive that first terrifying trek through the darkening woods, though he definitely feels an eerie presence following him the whole way. When he finally reaches the stranger's house, the guy is horrified that Sir traveled at night. He drops this chilling warning about Amavasya, or the new moon. The lore explicitly anchors the supernatural threat to lunar cycles. Basically, the darker the moon, the stronger the entity known as the Chalawa becomes. Forced to stay the night at the stranger's house, Cirque goes through pure auditory horror. The environment literally comes alive. The howling of jackals, the violent creaking of the trees, and then this piercing, searing silence. It keeps Sir wide awake all night long. He's paralyzed by fear, realizing he's stepped into a domain that absolutely does not belong to the living. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds toward disaster. After safely getting home the next morning, Sir insists on doing the job again immediately. He leaves at noon. By 5 p.m., he's in the neighboring village delivering clothes. But, collecting payment takes time. By 6 p.m., sunset is beginning just as he re-enters that dark, freezing forest. And this sets him on a direct collision course with midnight, the dreaded third watch of the night, where he'll be completely alone at the river. Right before he stepped back into that forest at 6 p.m., an old man in the village gave him one final, critical warning. With Amavasya now just days away, the entity's power is hitting its peak. But Sir makes a fatal emotional calculation here. He ignores the old man because he knows his wife Anjali is at home, terrified out of her mind. He actively chooses the danger of the forest over leaving his wife to suffer through a night of anxiety. And that brings us to part 3, the witch's trap. The pacing really accelerates here as Sir enters the chilling, pitch-black forest, and suddenly, a sweet, crystal-clear voice calls out his name. Sir, oh sir, stop for a minute. That voice? It belongs to the entity that's been hunting him all along, the Chalawa. Now, if you aren't familiar, a Chalawa is a shapeshifter. It doesn't jump out and attack you with claws and fangs right away. No, its primary weapon is illusion and deception. It takes a harmless, even attractive form to disarm its victims, perfectly exploiting basic human nature. And here is the exact moment the trap just snaps shut. The voice calls out again, basically mocking his fear, and Sirah, he breaks Ramu's golden rule. He turns around. But standing there isn't some hideous monster. It's a beautiful woman holding a bundle of clothes. She tells him she needs them washed for a wedding, totally playing on his pride as a washerman. Sirah is so relieved it's just a villager and so eager for the extra work that he accepts the clothes. The trap is officially set. So he hurries home with the clothes, but the real test hasn't even happened yet. It is now the middle of the night, yet Sir insists on going down to the river right then and there to wash this new bundle. You have to wonder, will his absolute blinding desperation for money end up costing him his life at the Midnight River? We're now at part 4, the midnight climax. Against his wife's frantic, desperate pleas, Sue is down at the water's edge. It's the third watch of the night, and suddenly he feels this overwhelming, heavy sensation that he is being watched. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when the illusion finally drops. First, Sir spots these glowing eyes staring at him from the opposite bank of the river. Then, as he bends down to the water, a towering, terrifying white shadow looms directly behind him. When he forces himself to turn around, the beautiful woman is completely gone. In her place is a creature with completely white, lifeless eyes, and its feet are just silently hovering off the ground. The Chalawa has revealed itself. The entity puts this cold, literally dead hand on his shoulder. It mocks him, praising his hard work, before dropping this bone-chilling threat. You will wash clothes for my companions in the Shamshan forever. It intends to take his soul, trapping him in eternal servitude among the restless dead. His obsessive desire to work his way out of poverty has literally become his eternal curse. Which leads us to part 5, a narrow escape and the final lesson. At this point, pure adrenaline takes over. Sumir drops the clothes, breaks free, and just sprints into the dark. He's running wildly through thorny bushes, tearing up his skin, guided entirely by sheer survival instinct. When he finally bursts through the door of his hut, bleeding and gasping for air, he tells Anjali that the Chalawa has marked him. He is convinced they are going to die. But here's where Anjali's brilliant, level-headed realization absolutely saves them. She quickly pieces together the rules of survival based on how he escaped. Step 1, Sir didn't surrender, he ran. Step 2, and this is the most absolutely crucial one. He left the cursed object, the woman's clothes, behind at the river. Because he didn't bring those clothes into their home, the entity doesn't have an invitation or a pathway inside. Step 3, they simply have to survive until the purifying light of dawn, which destroys the Chalawa's power. So, the crucial point here is how perfectly this folklore is essentially a mirror for real-life morality. Think about the trap of greed. Desperation pushed Sir to risk absolutely everything for wealth, which nearly led him straight to eternal torment. But look at the anchor of survival. It was Anjali's wisdom, knowing their own limits and ultimately choosing their simple life over dangerous money that saved them. They realized that while poverty is terrible, nothing, literally nothing, is more valuable than life itself. Naturally, Sir vows to never, ever look toward that cursed forest again, completely content to survive on the meager earnings from his own village. But as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Because this isn't just a story about a ghost, it's a story about human limits. How far would you walk into the darkness if it promised to pull you out of poverty? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating and terrifying lore with me today. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.